The year without a summer. The year is 536 AD. Imagine you are a farmer in Scandinavia, a merchant in Constantinople, a scribe in Ireland, or a soldier in the fragmented Roman Empire. Your world is one of gods and omens, of seasons you trust, and a sun you take for granted. Then, one spring, something goes terribly wrong. A mysterious bluish fog descends from the sky. It is not a normal fog. It is dry, and it lingers day after day, week after week. The sun, when you can see it, is weak and dim. The Byzantine historian Procopius would later write, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during this whole year. Midday casts no shadows. The warmth of summer never arrives." In August, reports from China speak of frost and snow. The crops, starved of light and warmth, begin to wither and die in the fields. Panic begins to spread across the known world. The rhythm of life has been broken. The sky has betrayed you. This is not a local storm or a bad harvest. This is a global catastrophe. The world feels like it is ending, and no one, absolutely no one, knows why. A world in chaos. The year the sun vanished was the first domino in a cascading collapse that would reshape human history. The consequences were swift, brutal, and global. First came the famine. From Ireland to China, the failure of the harvest was catastrophic. Grain stores were exhausted. Livestock starved. The price of bread skyrocketed. Historical accounts speak of unimaginable suffering. The annals of Ulster in Ireland record a failure of bread from the year 536. In Italy, people were reduced to eating acorns and beech nuts. There are grim reports of widespread cannibalism, of people driven to the ultimate taboo to survive. Millions died of starvation. Then, after the famine, came the plague. Weakened by years of malnutrition, the populations of the world were a tinderbox waiting for a spark. In 541 AD, that spark arrived. The bubonic plague, now known as the Plague of Justinian, erupted in Egypt and spread with terrifying speed through the trade routes of a crippled world. It killed, by some estimates, a third of the population of the Byzantine Empire. Famine, plague, and death. It was a 1-2 punch that brought civilization to its knees. Empires teetered. The great plans of Emperor Justinian to reconquer the Western Roman Empire were shattered. Germanic kingdoms in Europe dissolved into chaos. Mass migrations were triggered as desperate people fled the lands of hunger and death. The historian and climatologist Andrew Breeze has called 536 AD, without exaggeration, the single worst year to be alive, blaming the gods. In the face of this inexplicable horror, how did humanity react? How did they try to understand what was happening? This was their great technological bottleneck. They had no science of geology, no atmospheric chemistry, no satellites. Their only early warning system, their only technology for understanding a global crisis, was religion, superstition, and myth. They looked to the sky for an explanation and saw not a chemical veil, but a divine message. In Christian Constantinople, it was surely the wrath of God, a punishment for the sins of the empire. They prayed, they fasted, they held solemn processions, begging for a forgiveness they could not be sure they would receive. In the pagan lands of Scandinavia, the dim sun and the bitter cold would have felt terrifyingly familiar. It was Fimbulwinter, the great winter foretold in their mythology, the final, inescapable sign that the end of the world, Ragnarok, was at hand. In China, The unseasonable cold and dying crops were a terrible omen for the emperor, a sign that he had lost the mandate of heaven. They were trying to solve a geological problem with a theological solution. They fought the darkness with prayers, sacrifices, and rituals. They were utterly helpless, trapped in a pre-scientific mind, facing a planetary-scale disaster they had no framework to even begin to comprehend. The detective story. For almost 1,300 years, the exact cause of the catastrophe of 536 remained a mystery. The historical accounts were there, but what could have possibly caused such a long-lasting global dimming? The answer did not lie in ancient texts, but in new forms of evidence, new ways of reading the Earth's secret history. The detective story began in the coldest places on Earth. Scientists drilling deep into the ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica have pulled up a perfect year-by-year timeline of the Earth's atmosphere, trapped in layers of ice. In the ice layer corresponding to the year 536 AD, they found the smoking gun. A massive, unambiguous spike in sulfate aerosols. This is the chemical signature of a colossal volcanic eruption, one that blasted millions of tons of sulfur into the stratosphere, creating a chemical veil that circled the globe and reflected sunlight back into space. The second piece of evidence came from the trees. The science of dendrochronology reads the history written in tree rings. And in the rings of ancient oaks from Ireland, bristlecone pines from North America, and trees from across the northern hemisphere, the history was the same. The tree ring for 536 AD is incredibly thin, showing almost no growth. The following years are just as bad. It was a biological shock that stunned the entire biosphere of the planet. The evidence was clear. There had been a massive volcanic eruption. Modern science points to several possible culprits. A massive eruption in Iceland, or perhaps two large eruptions in quick succession. A leading candidate is a colossal eruption of the Ilopango volcano in what is now El Salvador, which blasted a plume of ash and sulfur halfway around the world. The survivor's paradox. This brings us back to the central theme of our series. In the face of a global famine that starved millions, a plague that killed tens of millions more, and the collapse of social order, how did humanity survive? Why did this not become the ultimate bottleneck, the great filter that ended our story? The answer lies in resilience. Humanity survived because it was widespread and adaptable. The event was a global catastrophe, but its effects were not uniform. Some regions, perhaps those with different crops or better food storage, fared better than others. Survival was local. It depended on the strength of a village, the wisdom of a leader, the simple act of neighbors sharing their last reserves of grain. And in a brutal, paradoxical way, the disaster acted as a historical reset. It cleared the board. It weakened old empires, shattered existing power structures, and ended the last vestiges of the classical world. The world that would emerge from the ashes of 536 and the plague of Justinian would be a new world. The world of the Middle Ages. The world that would eventually, after many centuries, give birth to our own. We are the descendants of the people who made it through the darkness. The modern mirror. It is easy for us to look back with a sense of superiority. We are no longer trapped in that technological bottleneck of understanding. If a supervolcano were to erupt today, our satellites would see it. Our scientists would understand its effects. We would have an early warning, but have we just traded one bottleneck for another? An event like 536 today would have unimaginably complex consequences. The global stock market would crash in seconds. International supply chains, which our entire civilization depends on for food, medicine, and energy, would shatter in days. Panic and misinformation would spread across the internet at the speed of light. The ensuing chaos could lead to global conflict over dwindling resources. Our new bottleneck is not a lack of knowledge. It is our global interconnectedness, our profound fragility. Our early warning system is scientific, but is our global political system capable of acting on that warning with the speed and unity required? Are we truly any safer? The patient Earth. The year 536 AD is more than just a grim historical curiosity. It is a stark, chilling reminder that our complex, bustling, technologically advanced civilization exists entirely at the mercy of the planet. We build our empires, we tell our stories, we fight our wars, all under a sun we take for granted. But the Earth is a geological entity with a time scale and a power that dwarfs our own. It does not care about our empires, our economies, or our gods. The story of 536 is not just a story about a bad year. It is a story about our profound and enduring vulnerability. It is a whisper from the ice cores and the tree rings, a lesson from the deep past, reminding us that the sky can fall at any moment. And we would be wise to listen. Subscribe to Epoch Echoes, where the darkest years in history have the most to teach us.